Hippie-Fari Reggae Radio and Podcast is brought to you by The Island Rhythm, the dopest reggae-inspired and Rasta-inspired designs, clothing, and everything else you could possibly imagine. Check out theislandrhythm.com. Check out Island Rhythm on Facebook and on Instagram. Once again, The Island Rhythm is where it's at. Much love. What it is all about, it's reggae music. And that is a quote from Muta Baruka. And this quote addresses one of the main reasons I created Hippie-Fari, the beautiful, life-changing message of reggae music. It was created for social change, and its message is as strong today as it was in the 60s when the first reggae records were released in Jamaica. So welcome to another episode of Hippie-Fari Reggae Radio and Podcast, recorded live in the Omen Honey Reggae Radio and Media Studios in beautiful Daytona Beach, Florida. I am your host, Scotty the High-Strung Hippie, and take a second and subscribe to our YouTube channel. 2 seconds. Pause, YouTube, subscribe, come right back. Hippie-Fari is a podcast where we discuss all things reggae. So if reggae music is your thing, you're in the right place. So tonight, we have a special guest in the studio. I am joined by the creator of a podcast that's not only perfectly describes a genre with its exact name, but it dives deep and creates a listener's experience. This is someone who's passionate about the American reggae scene, but honest about still learning when it comes to roots and Rastafari. And this episode is about growth, curiosity, and what it means to love this music while seeking a deeper connection to its foundation. We'll talk cultural roots, reggae jargon, social media illusions, and what Bob Marley might say about today's scene. So this isn't about posing, it's about showing up, asking questions, and respecting the source. So let's get down and reason. Folks, join me in welcoming Raleigh of White Boy Reggae, a listener's experience to the show. What's up, brother?
Hey, Scotty. How we doing, listeners? Thanks for having me on. Been following Hippie-Fari for a little bit of time now. Love what you're doing here, Scotty.
That's beautiful, man. We love what you're doing. The second I saw your podcast, well, I'd seen it before, but the second I had a podcast and then I passed back by your podcast, I was like, I have to have this guy on my podcast because, it's White Boy Reggae, and I know what that means, and I listen to a lot of it. So I was like, I gotta have this guy on so he can actually explain, what it's all about, his perspective on it, and, pretty much where he just decided, I'm going to use that name. I love it. So it's absolutely fantastic, man. So I'm so glad to have you on. We have been conversing back and forth, now for a period of time. I consider you a friend already. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's easy to make friends in great company and great shared visions and missions and just a common hobby as well. That's just what we've seemed to be able to establish here, just with reggae music and American reggae scene at that. Yes,
absolutely. You have an amazing job as a school teacher, so you're touching people, through academics, but you're also doing it through music, which is absolutely incredible. I love that, man. That's very cool, brother.
Yeah, it's sometimes hard to find the balance between,
right,
putting my contributions in with the podcast, because it is only a one-man operation currently, and it is a lot of work, a lot of digging, a lot of research, and a lot of formulating ideas and bringing things together. But I kind of see it as kind of a labor of love, I guess you could say. I've been loving doing it for the last couple of years and trying to find that balance. Being a teacher in today's climate, it just... There's a lot to say about it, but I'm not going to be saying it on here. Reggae music has kind of served as a very nice distraction from when I get worked up with the things that I am, I guess, confronted with as a teacher on the daily. So that, in addition to the summertime, reggae music's been playing quite a lot in my life lately.
That's beautiful, man. Do your kids know, your kid, not your personal children, but your students know that you have a podcast?
Some of them actually kind of got onto it because something that I do in my classroom is project my screen, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll be doing something on the podcast real quick, checking a stat or data or information or checking in on something. Maybe I have my Instagram account, but that makes me have my Google White Boy Reggae Google account along
Yep.
with my district one and also my personal one.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I shift around and click some things, White Boy Reggae will appear on the screen,
Yeah.
and some students have been very keen with observing it, and they have asked me. I'm just like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Moving
That's
on. We're not
funny.
here to talk about that.
Kids are smart, bro. You got to be careful, man. They will figure
Yeah, you
you
gotta
out.
be careful. And I actually had two students last year in particular. Names will go unmentioned, but
Yeah.
they were really into music.
That's
Not
great.
only did they play in the school's band, but they also were very involved in what I would probably say neo metal music. And they loved talking with me about music. And I tried to put them on to a couple bands that I've liked in the past and whatnot. And they were particularly interested in my bald head. I don't know what it is about having a bald head, but it makes you a target for some joking and teasing,
Sure.
especially coming from middle school students that seem to have a banter between the two.
Right.
And they said something along the lines of how they had a strong desire to actually sign my bald head at the end of the school year instead of signing the yearbook, sign my bald head. It's kind of interesting because as I've worked this podcast trying to create my social media content, one thing that I've kind of done is when I go to a show, try to get a VIP experience, and in that VIP experience, have either the musician or the band sign my head.
Nice.
With
That's
a
awesome.
permanent marker. So I thought it was kind of funny that they, thought of doing that, but I'm like, I'm already doing that. Hopefully they don't see my Instagram account and see that I'm already having people sign my dome.
That's funny, man. We've kind of reversed the roles here. Actually, I'm the one who's supposed to be bald. I'm definitely up there in age. You're not, but that's okay, man. We can still hang out.
Yeah. It's one of those things where there's nothing you can do about it but embrace it.
That's it, brother. And speaking of embracing things, obviously I know you take this podcast very seriously, is what you should. It's not just a podcast; it's definitely a listener's experience. It's a learning experience. He not just plays tracks; he goes very, very, very deep into this music, and it's a very beautiful thing. So speaking of that, man, why don't you just tell the people a little bit about your project, White Boy Reggae, a listener's experience, and what inspired you to start it?
Yeah, so White Boy Reggae Listener's Experience is now going into its 15th episode. I'm going to be recording that tomorrow, most likely, and sending that out to the world.
That's right.
But ultimately, the mission is to promote the popularity of the American reggae scene by keeping listeners informed about the past, present, and future of a subgenre of music that I have dubbed as White Boy Reggae. Now, White Boy Reggae is not an official genre. It's just something that I have made up. Not even made up, because I'm not even the one that actually originally used the word. I heard it from somebody else, and I can speak to that. I think we got a plan to do that in a little bit.
Yep.
But ultimately, I am on the search of just American reggae bands. And what will happen is if I catch word of their band name on a festival lineup or whatever the case may be, I'll throw them on a list. And then eventually, each episode I'll cover 4 or 5, maybe 3 bands. By going deep into their music, giving a listen through everything they have available on Spotify, and then going into and playing small little segments of songs that I particularly like or the band or artist wanted to have kind of be promoted in the podcast. Share small little segments of those songs, then go into kind of what that part meant to me or what I felt like while listening to this music. How can I relate this to other music that I've listened to? And just really anything that comes to my mind while listening to the music, I will probably make comment about it. And ultimately the goal is to just try to get some of these bands that might not get as much exposure in my geographical area a little bit of exposure. Because I live in the Midwest here where, let's face it, reggae music has a hard time existing at the current moment. It does exist. It's just kind of harder to find than along the coastlines and the Gulf of America, I guess you could say now coastline, because Texas seems to have a pretty big scene, and Arizona.
They do. Arizona's got a great one.
Good scene, but I kind of found this void, I guess, in America of reggae music, and I just kind of wanted to be a part of making it a little bit more known around me. So
that's absolutely fantastic, man.
Yeah, it's been a very awesome experience because there's no end to it, and with that, the timeline of the project is kind of a question mark. I'm finding out that I can kind of take this kind of however I want to. And it's kind of the first time in my life where I'm truly in charge of something that I've created with no other variable influence in it, besides just obviously the listeners, because obviously you got to listen into the listeners. But it's kind of fun where I've taken it so far, and it's kind of fun to think about where it could go. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing, man. The first time I ever heard the term, it was a long time ago. Was this kid that I used to work with, though, and he had mentioned, white boy reggae. I was like, yeah, it pretty much sums it up. But this was also the same kid that said he had a music degree, a collegiate music degree, and tried to convince me that ska didn't exist until the late 80s, early 90s with punk, and you had to have horns to be ska. And I was like, you're talking about reggae, but you're telling me you don't know anything about ska music. He's like, trust me, I have a degree. I was like, I don't know where you got it from, man, but ska predates reggae, buddy. But anyway, it was pretty funny. But it was the first time I heard the term, and it summed it up pretty well. So, and I, I'm a roots head, 100%. But I do love a lot of what is coined, white boy reggae. I think a lot of those bands definitely bring that roots element in. That's a beautiful thing. So, what was the first artist that pulled you into reggae music, man? Was it a band? Was it a solo artist or?
Reggae music specifically?
Yeah.
I talked about it in some of the episodes because within the episodes of the podcast, it's kind of formulated where I'll have a pitter-patter segment where I just kind of talk about what's been going on in my life and how it connects to reggae music. Sure. And really anything that comes to my mind, really. That'll probably take up about 15 minutes. Nice. And then I'll get into a news segment, kind of what's been happening. Yep. Lately, it's been kind of whatever's happening with Sublime, to be honest with you. But any other news that comes through, I'll be mentioning a thing or two about it in a very unbiased, kind of just a presenting of facts kind of format. But then I'll get into those artists and band spotlights there. So, nice. So where did I get started? I actually got started. My parents went on a cruise. I grew up in the 90s. I'm a 1990 baby. My parents went on a cruise without me and my brother and came back from the Caribbean with obviously tanner skin and kind of this sense of relaxation about them that I wasn't really used to seeing too much. I mean, stress-free coming back from this trip. And my dad started playing this music on a loudspeaker in our house, coming straight from his cruise. And it was my first time ever hearing reggae music. I remember it to the point. And he was blasting around the house, loving it. And I'm like, what is this sound? I've never heard this before. And I really wish I remember who it was, but it was like a reggae music kind of thing, Right. I'm sure my dad still has the CD if I asked him to get it, to fish it out somewhere. But was like, that was the first time. And then, and then, what was that?
I said if it was like that, bum bum diddy bum bum, it might have been Eka Mouse. He used to do that really awesome stuff. But you never know, man. That's cool.
Yeah, I wish I knew because that is the answer to your question. Right. In high school, I started to get into Bob Marley, and then made the jump into more American reggae. Then with Sublime, and then Revolution ultimately made me say that there is an American reggae scene, and then that continued into my 20s, early 20s, and it's been riding ever since. Got in with Iration and Dirty Heads. Sure. Eventually got around to Pacifier and all these other bands that were coming through, Slightly Stupid, Stick Figure, just nice. All of the big ones. And then ultimately when I started the podcast, I started to become more familiar with the smaller ones, the Rubbitree, the DeBest. Love
Rubbitree.
I throw Sons of Paradise in there, which you had in a previous episode. Yes. I've featured them on my podcast as well as Giant Panda, Gorilla Dub Squad. Nice. Featured them on a segment. Styley, Elephants Dancing, Cloud9 Vibes, Rockstead, Oogie Wawa. I mean, I'm trying to cover as much ground as possible, but smaller bands like that is really my target.
Sure. 100%, man. And that's kind of funny that you mentioned, your dad or your parents went on a cruise, he came back and he was playing the reggae music. I know that feeling when you go on a vacation and you don't want to come home, but you have to. You try to bring that vacation back home with you, and that's a beautiful way to do that. You can't, I'm sure he was probably like still pretending like he was on that boat chilling in the Caribbean, man. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah. But we had talked about the platform a little bit of this podcast, and since you're a host, you had told me that there were some things that you wanted to ask me because this is kind of my style. Everybody who listens to this podcast knows I am all about roots reggae music, 100%. About 99% of what I listen to is roots reggae music, and the other 1% consists of death metal, grindcore, maybe a little bit of country and some Jimmy Buffett thrown in there. But and we had talked about you getting into roots reggae music, like the actual, where it was born. And you had said that we kind of wanted to bounce it back and forth, and you had some questions for me. So I figured you could fire a couple shots at me, and I'll fire a couple shots back at you.
Yeah, let's fire shots. I actually have, I think, like 4 questions that I think you're a really good source to
Okay.
get an answer to.
Okay.
I'll probably start off my firing with a little bit of light and fluffy questions. Then I got a big one at the end, and I think
Okay.
maybe
Oh,
you
geez.
even have one that's similar. Maybe we can blend the two together. But
Okay, I like
to
it.
get things started, I'll fire a little fun question at you. As
Okay.
I've been just progressing in this podcast and getting familiar with the American reggae scene, I seem to come across this sound, I guess you could say, that the lead
Yeah.
singer of the voice will oftentimes rely on to. And the sound is a little bit different from band to band, but
Yeah.
it's something that is very prevalent, and I can't
Okay.
seem to go like 10 songs listening into the music that I'm listening to with this associated with this podcast without running
Yeah.
into a song that has something like this. But I mentioned it in a previous episode. I called it the White Boy Reggae Party Call, unofficially.
Right.
Not knowing anything about what it is that I'm trying to describe, but it kind of sounds like this. Ribbity, 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 pick it up, puh, puh,
Right.
puh.
Yep.
That's my best shot at it. But
Right.
I just can't help but think that there's got to be a reason why this
There
seems
is.
to be sprinkled in to so many songs that I've been listening to recently. So if you have any light on that, that would be great to hear,
Sure.
because it'll put a lot of theories that I have in my head to rest.
Absolutely. Well, my understanding of it, I grew up listening to obviously reggae music my entire life, but I also listened to a lot of ska. Ska predates reggae. It was pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. That was the singer pretty much letting the band know that it was about to go into a faster beat, basically. So pick it up literally means we're about to pick it up. If you listen after they do that, it probably the music kind of gets more intense. And that's pretty much what he's telling them, like, pick it up, pick it up, pick it. When it was chink, chink, pick it up, pick it. Like the horns will start going off, and the drums will start going off, and they're going and going and going. So that's the pick it up, pick it up, pick it up. It's pretty much like a call to the band, like we're about to go off. So yep, and that came from you'll actually hear that in a lot of ska music. Generally, right before the horn section starts to shred it, or some member of the band, the drums will start to get real heavy, and they'll just go into a nice jam. There you go. So that's pretty much it.
That's awesome. So it is ska rooted then, which then
Yes.
obviously through time reggae and ska have existed together.
Yes. Well, ska predates it, but yeah, they definitely reggae came from obviously rocksteady, ska, and then it turned into and then you had your dance hall and your rub-a-dub and all that stuff came out of reggae. But yes, the ska music, like the Scotalites were in the 50s. They're an amazing ska band. It was that two-tone where that chink, 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 chink came from, and ska does not have to have horns. That's a common misconception with the people that grew up listening to like ska punk and all that. It does, and it's beautiful, but it doesn't have to. It's that two-tone. If you've ever heard of Operation Ivy, they're a prime example of a ska punk band, no horn section, absolutely incredible. It's the two-tone, that tink, 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 tink. So two-tone ska is what they called it. But pick it up, go, go, go. Yeah, that's what it means. It's like we're about to jam out, man. Kind of the
That's
singer
awesome.
telling them, without saying, all right, get ready to go, get ready to go. It was just a really neat way of throwing it in there. So very cool.
So I called it the White Boy Reggae Party Call. It's much
I
more.
love
It's
it.
much more than just White Boy Reggae Party Call.
Yeah,
But you
but
could
that's
say that it calls the party to the song then in a
yes,
ska song. Yeah.
yes, and that's a really good. I kind of like that term better than the old pick it up or the get ready to skank or Yes, 100%. That's
You
awesome.
want to take that one further and maybe speculate the ribbity 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 then, or the puh puh
I
that
think
seems to
that's
be going on?
just. I think that's just. In addition to the pick it up, pick it up. But
Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one that seems to notice this within the music then.
right, hundred
Because
percent, hundred
sometimes
percent.
it'll happen and I'm like, all right, here it comes. I'm looking
Yep,
around and like no one else seems to be reacting the same way
yep,
I am.
yep. Absolutely. And then they'll do the with the after they'll do you'll hear them do that a little bit too. That's just like kind of a a continuation of the pick it up, pick it up. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty cool, man.
All right, you got one you want to fire at me?
Absolutely, man. So you had mentioned like you can hold your own, and I obviously before the podcast we've talked, and you can definitely hold your own in conversations about the American reggae scene, but you had talked to me, and you said you were wanting to learn roots and kind of like the Rasta side. Are there like some things that you're doing or that you want to do to kind of build that foundation? Are there any albums that you've been exploring or any like specific things that you're going to get involved in to kind of expand your knowledge on, the roots reggae and the Rasta side of everything?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I'm going to continue my work with what I got going on here with my podcast because I
Of
feel
course.
like the podcast itself has brought on this, I guess, evolution of my understanding.
Sure.
And that is going to continue on. So as I continue making the episodes and doing the work associated
Yep.
with the podcast here, I'm going to naturally be exploring that as well.
Beautiful.
But one thing that I found, with meeting you and talking with you is that I do got a lot to learn, as you previously said, about where this all came from. What is the American reggae scene definitely wasn't the first thing. It all
Right,
came
right.
from someplace else. Roots reggae music is what I believe to be, and first wave punk music seem to be the two that existed way before what the American reggae scene seems to be now. So
Sure.
something that I've made a point to do, and once I'm done releasing episode 15, once again plan on doing that soon, I'm dedicating a lot of time to roots reggae music.
That's
You gave
beautiful,
me
man.
a solid list of about 50 artists and bands that I need to spend time with. I also got to spend time with some punk bands like you led me on to Bad Brains. Never spent
Yes.
any time with them. Definitely want to spend some time with that so I can build a little bit more of that foundation.
Yes.
And I think with doing that, it's just going to help me as a listener in the American reggae scene just be able to relate that much more as to where things came from so that you can better understand where things are now.
That's beautiful.
I grew up in rural Minnesota,
Wow. Okay.
I believe in episode 1 you said something about how one of the reasons why you did your podcast here, Hippie-Fari, is that you wanted an outlet because all of your friends and family members seem to like reggae music, and you're the one that's like, well, why don't we do something about this, right? If I'm not mistaken. But I didn't have that, and I still don't have that. And what I've been finding out is that with the work of this podcast, I get to meet so many people, I get to learn so many things,
Right.
and one of the reasons why I guess I chose to do the podcast is because I didn't have a social outlet to talk about this thing that I seem to be wanting to spend so much time with and understand a lot. So
That's awesome.
yeah, the future is just going to continue on with this podcast, and then in doing so, get familiar with the roots and get familiar with the punk rock that kind of seems to be the initiation of what's going on here in the American reggae scene today.
That's great, man, and I love what you called it. Or you were telling me you called it your summer of roots reggae. Where you're gonna kind of inundate yourself when you're barbecuing. Instead of throwing on your playlist that you're like you hear a million times, you're gonna throw on some new stuff and start to learn new stuff, which is great. I'm constantly going down the roots reggae rabbit hole, and it's very easy. There are thousands beyond thousands of artists that I probably still haven't heard. There's, a lot of them that just made one record, 1 7-inch, you know what I mean, with one song. But, then there's a B-side maybe with a dub on it, but there's still a million things out there that I'm willing to learn, or that I need to learn, and I'm definitely willing to learn as well. But I'm also still keeping my ear open to the white boy reggae, the American reggae scene and what's going on, because there's some beautiful new music coming out as well, man. Speaking of news, I was just at Point Break Festival. Just happened this past weekend. That was incredible. Maybe you can talk about that in your podcast tomorrow. You said some, you talked about news, but that is if you were to pick a lineup of, white boy reggae, I don't know if you could have done a better lineup than Point Break Festival, So,
I just want everyone to know that I did not make that lineup, but it is beautiful.
It's a good one.
I had no part in making that, but I agree with you. That lineup was a really thoughtful congregation of bands that seem to be leading the scene in the American reggae scene.
Yes, it was absolutely beautiful, man. So,
I saw content shared on by social media outlets. Not only the bands do a great job of sharing stuff out, but Point Break Festival itself does, and that festival there is something unique and special. Toes in the sand, reggae music around.
Yeah.
And the biggest names are there, and also, they choose some really good smaller name bands too.
Yeah.
Really, really like that festival and like what it's been doing.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. And we are gonna have a absolutely killer post Point Break podcast with it's gonna be a recap podcast with interviews that I did, live footage that I got, crowd interviews, band interviews. So it's gonna be absolutely fantastic. So definitely stay tuned for that too. So all right, man, it's your turn. Throw something at me. Hit me.
All right. So next question that I want to fire at you is a band-specific question.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to throw this question out at you is because you are Floridian, or you are currently residing in Florida.
Sure.
Great reggae scene from what I can see from the Midwest happening there in Florida. But there's one particular band that sticks out to me because I believe it is the first time that I've ever heard the expression white boy reggae.
Okay.
It was at a concert. Less Than Jake was the headliner, another Florida ska band. They're ska punk. But their opener was a band called the Supervillains.
Love the Supervillains.
And this was probably around 2010, 2011 when this took place. So a little bit of time ago. But the Supervillains were a band that I never heard of before entering into the venue. Right. So I was completely taken by surprise as to how awesome to my ear this band was. And just the antics, not only on stage, but also in the lyrics and the sound that they were making and the vibe they were putting off. I went home and spoke to my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, about this band called the Supervillains. Yep. And I said that she's like, well, what kind of music was it? And I said, I don't really have anything. I heard somebody call it white boy reggae. I really don't know what that is. But have you heard of the Supervillains, and would you agree that they are a quote unquote white boy reggae band?
Yes, I'm very familiar with them. They are actually from the town that I moved to Florida. When I initially moved to Florida, I moved to Orlando, Florida. And the Supervillains, and if you hear that in the back, this is exactly what I thought the first time I heard the Supervillains. Sounded like a train coming through, and I live right by a train. And you usually I'll be able to get my question out and turn my microphone down, but oddly enough, you asked me, so it's up. So if you hear a train in the background, that's what it is. It's all good. It's part of it. But they, in my opinion, they could influenced some white boy reggae bands. But I kind of looked at them as kind of like the epitome of like, ska punk. You know what I mean? Kind of like the Voodoo Glow Skulls, not as crazy as the Voodoo Glow Skulls, but definitely with, ska, punk rock, and definitely that reggae vibe in there. But the Supervillains, they were formed, I believe, in 1998 in Orlando, Florida. So every single weekend, you could go to Firestone when they weren't throwing electronic dance music events, and the Supervillains were always playing a show. And they had that. But it was at the show. It was more of a punk rock element that would show up. You know what I mean? Than the reggae element. You know, a lot of skanking. You know what that is, where they kind of get low to the floor and you kick your feet out. A lot of skanking going on, a lot of that kind of dancing at the supervillain shows. But they definitely influenced bands all the way from punk to ska to reggae, 100%. I've never met a person that was a punk that didn't like them. I've never met a person that was into reggae that didn't like them. So, you know, they kind of like, I think, I guess, like Sublime or 311, you know what I mean? They cross that genre where, you know, punks like them, you know, people that are into ska like them. So, you know, it was yeah, that was a cool time though when they came out, right when the you know, right around the year
I
98
kind
into
of
2000. So they were
I know
very
that they have their
influential.
own lives and their own business, but I kind of wish that they had more music to offer the fans because they only got like a couple albums, I think,
Right.
which are great. Don't get me wrong, but within the music, it's just this quirky,
Hmm.
zany,
Fun.
off the cuff
Yeah.
kind of. I'm gonna
Hmm.
say it, and I don't care who wants to listen because
Right.
and just having fun kind of mentality within the music. So. I'm glad you know them because
Oh,
they're an
100%.
awesome band.
And you know, you just mentioned something. A lot of bands, like I was interviewing Dale from Dale and the Z Dubs, and I just had a band called Cola Green on the other day, and you know, Dale said we're gonna be spending a lot of time in the studio, and then we're gonna be hitting the road again. And Cola Green said, you know, instead of playing small bar shows because we're kind of a new band, we're gonna be spending time in the studio. Then we're gonna be hitting the road, and we're gonna be doing shows. The Supervillains were always doing shows. So you had mentioned you wish you had, you know, more music out. I think it's kind of a you either you're at a point where you're a band where you're like, we're gonna take this time off and we're gonna just focus on writing new songs, or we're just gonna continue to play live shows. And there's a lot of bands that have 50 new tracks that were never recorded. They just play them all the time. You know what I mean? But like I said before, you said that every weekend the Supervillains were playing somewhere in Orlando. So I think they definitely took that route of just continually playing out. I think they found that they got a following real quick, and we're like, if we stop, we might lose it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
they were constantly grinding and touring, you know, with all the big names, Slightly Stupid and all that stuff. So they were, yeah, they were nonstop playing. And when you're doing that, it's hard to, like, even Natalie Rye said, she's like, you know, I haven't put out an album in 3 years because she's touring so much, you know. So I think, you know, as a band, you make that choice, and I think they made the right choice because you know who they are, I know who they are.
yeah,
But
yeah.
you know, you definitely wish there was more music for you to listen to because you like them. I totally get that.
Well, you could say that for a lot of bands too.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. All right, you ready to fire one?
Absolutely, my friend. This one I considered taking out, but I kind of mentioned it to you, and we are like, you know, we're gonna keep it in because I think it makes a lot of sense right now, and especially this relates to the American reggae scene and kind of some things that have been thrown at it before. What do you think cultural appreciation versus cultural appropriation looks like in the American reggae scene?
Yeah, that's a higher ed question right there, man.
It
You,
is.
you be making me connect some neurons on this one. All right, so cultural acceptance and cultural appreciation is that
Well,
correct?
no, cultural appreciation and then cultural appropriation, kind of versus the
Appropriation.
two. What do you think
Yeah,
that looks like in the American reggae scene? Is it more appreciation? Is it more of the other word? I
I
definitely
think it's
have
a blend of
very strong
both.
opinions on this. Yeah.
I think it's a blend of both.
That,
One thing that I kind of want to make a point to announce is that cultural appropriation probably comes after cultural appreciation. I would imagine, if you had to put one in front of the other.
right.
Cultural appreciation is the sense of, hey, I come from a different background, and I need to take the steps to figure out what the cultural differences are so that I can find a way to appreciate what they are for what they are. And then cultural appropriation is more of less something that was mentioned in previous episodes is of your podcast. I think Harrison of Groundation and Anthony of Cultivated Mind mentioned this word. It's called cultural diffusion. And I really don't know what the difference between cultural diffusion and cultural appropriation is. All I know is that both words are terms used to say, like, hey, I'm going to take something from another culture and use it as my own. Now, that is not a bad thing to do. In the spirit
of... great thing to do.
In the spirit of, we're all in this together. We're all human beings on this planet, and we all come from different experiences and backgrounds. But the thing that you have to keep in mind is that, well, this is just all what I believe, but you have to also give recognition to what was before. And also the things that might kind of make people a little on edge when you do appropriate culture or diffuse culture as well. There are some no-nos to do in there. There are some yes-yeses. And when you think of the American reggae scene, it's built on cultural appreciation and cultural appropriation. The question I have, though, is modern-day Rastafarian people and modern-day roots reggae musicians, are they happy with the appropriation that's going on and satisfied and okay with the cultural appropriation that's going on with the American reggae scene? I would like to think a lot of them are, but there are probably some that don't.
Well, to me, it's, obviously I knew I was going to ask the question, so when you know you're going to ask a question, you think about it. To me, it's mimicking the surface, but are you ignoring the source? It's okay to mimic the surface or to take from somebody else's culture because, just like Harrison Stafford said, the Romans wouldn't have anything without the Greeks. You know what I mean? If somebody didn't take from somebody else, there'd only be one burger restaurant. There'd only be one pizza restaurant. You know what I mean? But are we elevating the voices of the oppressed that the reggae music represents? Are we learning or just vibing? You know what I'm saying? Vibing is great, but I also think, reggae music was created for social change. It was created for revolution. It was created for community building. So I think vibing with everybody is a really good way to build a community. You know what I mean? But I think while you're doing that, it's also nice to be learning about where it came from and learning from other people. You don't necessarily have to know everything about reggae music to love reggae or even be in it, but it's nice to know about the people that are in it with you. Building a community, because it is about community building, you know what I mean? The music itself is about building something bigger that we can come together and all enjoy. So, I think appreciation is a relationship built on learning, and appropriation is kind of just a costume. I hate the word cultural appropriation, but I had to bring it up because that's what it's defined as. But, a lot of people are like, well, you have this, so that's cultural appropriation. That is not true. That is not true. Everybody had what everybody has in the past, because nobody, unless you're, I don't know what you believe, but unless you were the first humans on Earth, everybody has borrowed from everybody, has borrowed from everybody, has borrowed from everybody. So, but I think if you are going to borrow from a culture, like you said, it is pertinent to, know about it and give that appropriation
And you can do that by exploring the history. Really being familiar with the culture that you're getting into and make it a pursuit to understand why those cultural norms exist and where these ideas and concepts and philosophies and values and ethics come from. And what's interesting about that is I was not intimidated, even though I knew that some people in the world, when they heard White Boy Reggae as a podcast title, I was not intimidated to back away from that, because I know who I am as a person, and who I am as a person, or at least try to be, is one that is respectful. And even though it might come off a little hasty, the name of the podcast, what I am doing here is actually trying to understand what the cultural appropriation of the American reggae scene is, based on the fact that there was a reggae scene before the American reggae scene
Right.
established already.
Right.
And that's why, I'm taking some time here to, take into account those roots reggae musicians and spending time with them.
Yes.
One thing that I mentioned to some friends that I have that weren't my friends before I started doing this podcast, but now have become very good friends of mine, is that I would love to just talk with, Rastafarian or a roots reggae musician who is not white about
Right.
the term white boy reggae. Is it a
Yeah.
good thing? Is it a bad thing? Should it
Right.
be even judged? Like,
Yeah.
you see what I'm doing here? Is what I'm doing wrong? Walking away from the conversation, I'll probably still continue doing what I'm doing. It might be altered a little bit based on what they say.
Right.
But that's kind of the spirit of it, taking into consideration, considering perspectives, and trying to be as respectful as you can when you approach something that was already had its foundation made before you were even on this planet.
Right. And I think the American reggae scene, the quote unquote white boy reggae scene, has done a fantastic job of appreciating where reggae came from, carrying that vibe of reggae music. And if you choose to call yourself Rastafari or not, or you just choose to participate in some of the social or the cultural aspects of it, you don't have to be in the religion to appreciate it. I think the American reggae scene has done an absolutely fantastic job of appreciating it and, doing a great job in, uplifting where it came from and holding dear to its heart, the actual, the beauty of it. And I think we do a great job, and I think it's very, very, very much appreciated. So, in my
Yeah.
opinion, like I said, a gold star for the American reggae scene, especially the music that we're talking about now. It's a white boy reggae, definitely a gold star because I think a lot of the bands and a lot of the artists, almost all of them, do a fantastic job. And I think at the bottom of their hearts, they truly do appreciate it. I think that's why they chose to play the reggae music because they do
Yeah.
appreciate it. It came from a deep appreciation from where it came from.
When you become involved in this community that is the American reggae scene, you will soon find out that the musicians and the content creators like myself and you, and when we get involved in conversation, there's always that talk of influences. And whenever that conversation happens, those artists, those musicians are always mentioning roots reggae artists. They're
Sure.
always mentioning Bob Marley. They're always mentioning the Wailers. They're always mentioning Steel Pulse. They're always mentioning some other ones that makes the person that truly wants to get down to what's happening here become ambitious about what is that music then that inspired
Right.
them. Because the bands and musicians are extremely open about who their influences are,
Yeah.
and a lot of them actually are found in the roots of reggae music.
Yeah. And to me, you don't have to like the, like my favorite mid to late 70s roots reggae. You don't have, I love it when it first started, but I like it when it developed into the mid 70s is my favorite, but I like it all. But you don't have to like that to appreciate it. It's, you don't have to listen to, all roots reggae to appreciate where it came from. You can listen to only the modern or the current reggae that's coming out in the American reggae scene and still appreciate it just as much as somebody who only listens to roots reggae. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
appreciation doesn't mean you necessarily have to. That's all you eat, breathe, and sleep. But like I said, I think we've done a fantastic job of, uplifting the culture and the spirit of where reggae music came from. I think it's a beautiful thing. I really do.
Yeah, and you could even make the argument that the American reggae scene also touches on some of the social activist concepts
They
and
do.
and parts that came into roots reggae music.
They do.
Um,
Absolutely.
and not all of them. Not all of them. There's actually probably less that tap into that than the ones that tap into more nature and peace
You're right.
and vibing, I
You're
guess
right.
you could say. But you can definitely come across them. The
Yeah.
bands that are sticking true to that mission of reggae music's root.
Sure, 100%, and carrying that vibe. But even the militant reggae that came out, it was still about peace and love and community. You know what I mean? And a lot of the ITAL lifestyle, that's the Rastafari and diet and lifestyle of getting back to nature. I think a lot of bands adopt, so you can take parts of it, that kind of adapt to you. I'm a vegan. I appreciate, nature, things like that. That adheres still to a lot of Rastafarian beliefs and practices as well. So, like I said, I think it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to live 100%. Yeah, I was raised in the church. I know a million Christians. I've never met one Christian that lives exactly like Christ lives. So, but you can still call yourself a Christian,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
you don't have to do
it's
every
interesting when you
single
say
thing,
that. Like, I don't consider myself a hippie. I
Right.
am not Rastafarian, but
Right.
look at me now. I'm on
Yeah.
I'm on the Hippie-Fari podcast, and I don't
There
have
you
to
go.
be a hippie or a Rastafarian to be
No.
here.
No,
I
you
just
don't.
have to be a human being that's willing
Yes.
to listen to other people and share insight from my perspective.
Right.
And as long as that insight is promoting some sort of peace and balance
Yes.
and the sense of empathy, then
Hmm.
everything should be all right. Because I think those are some just basic human qualities
It
that
is.
should probably exist in every single human.
I agree. And unfortunately, it doesn't, but it can. And that's a beautiful thing about reggae music. It's a tool that can be used to be able to, make people think.
That's the
You know,
draw and push of it, I would say. Yeah.
that's it. 100%, man. That's a beautiful thing. So, are there any specific bands that you can pop off right now that you, that are in the scene, the white boy reggae scene, that are like, in your opinion, doing it right? Like these guys are, they're doing what they got to do to make it. They're staying true to, themselves and the community, and just doing it right. Basically, what bands kind of, as my wife would say, hit you in the boo boo. You know what I mean? Where you listen to them, you're like, these guys are just nailing it for me right now.
Yeah, I actually came across a couple of bands
Hmm.
that seem to just be hitting me right where I want to be tickled with the
Yeah,
white boy reggae thing.
yeah,
One of those bands is still currently together and still doing their thing. That band is named Oogie Wawa.
right
I
on.
mentioned them once before. I don't know
Yes,
how familiar you are with them, but their music it's reggae,
yeah,
reggae founded. Obviously, got the sprinkle of ska and punk in there,
beautiful,
but lyrically, they are just hilarious.
nice.
Like they take their business as musicians seriously enough where they can make a name for themselves, but
Yep,
you can tell by the lyrics that they are truly just trying to have fun.
that's great.
And I featured them on one of my episodes, and I just simply enjoyed thoroughly listening to their music because I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know if I was going to be laughing
Okay,
or thinking differently coming out of
right.
that song, but
Yep.
they definitely threw me on a roller coaster. So Oogie Wawa is number one, and the other one, very similar to Oogie Wawa in that sense. They are no longer a band. The recent news on them is that they're on hiatus.
Okay.
There's a band called Sun Dried Vibes
I love
that
Sun-Dried
I
Vibes out of North
really,
Carolina, correct?
yeah,
Yeah,
that I really enjoyed
Charlotte, I believe.
listening to, and it was
Mhm.
one of those things, the timing thing. I got around to asking permission for me to use their music on the episode that I featured them on, and then I think it was either a month or maybe even 2 weeks before the episode was released, they released the news that they were going on hiatus.
Oh,
So
that's too bad.
it was kind of one of those bands that I got just really in touch with, and
Yeah.
then kind of once I established my touch with them, things kind of fell apart. And it is my hope that they can come back together in some way, shape, or form. And it is my hope that everything that happened that led them to hiatus can be peacefully looked at now that we're about a year out of that hiatus. So,
Well, that's
um,
my hope too. Have you ever seen them live?
no, I have never gotten the opportunity
Okay.
to.
They are great. I got to see them at Reggae at the Rock here in Daytona Beach, I believe the first Reggae 3 years ago. And they sounded live just like they sounded on any streaming platform. I mean, they were tight. Their bass player is one of the best bass players I have ever seen play live. He was just a smooth dude, bro. And their drummer, the whole band was absolutely phenomenal. Sun-Dried
Yeah.
Vibes, absolutely dope. North Carolina reggae, fantastic music, man, 100%. I'm glad you
There's
brought that
another
up.
one
I had
coming
no
out of
idea you liked them.
there's another one coming out of Florida. They also recently had their lead singer not fall out, just something happened with the band where the lead singer just decided to take a step away. Sarah Nation, I think.
Love Sarah Nation.
Yeah, Sarah Nation is also a really good band that gets me going.
Yes.
You also can make your way up the coastline, completely different sound and feel, but equally as impactful to me as a listener. The Best is a really good band out of I think Massachusetts.
Yep, right on. Awesome. Sarah Nation, you mentioned them. Me and my wife have had the opportunity to see them, I believe, 3 times. Yeah, Jay for Sarah Nation, the singer, was an absolute trip, man. His backflips into the crowd were hilarious. And their bass player, Bianca, I believe her name is, and just an incredible low end, really, really, really phenomenal bass player. So yeah, another fantastic band, man. Right on.
Yeah.
It's really cool that you mentioned. I didn't know a lot of people. Sun Dried Vibes. I'm glad you mentioned them. A lot of people, they're big enough to know who they are, but then there's people who had never heard of them, and I was quite surprised when I bring them up. And the band that you had mentioned earlier, Rubbertree, out of I believe Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that people hadn't heard them. Their sound is absolutely beautiful. They have a song called "Call of the Mountain." And I was like, this might sound morbid, but I was like, I have to have that song played at my funeral. It's too pretty. You know what I mean? Every time I hear it, I get goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah, they got a thing going on there with their sound. It's definitely more rooted than kind of my wheelhouse. They definitely take on the rooted, I guess, ideology of reggae music more
Certainly.
so than Oogie Waba or Sun Dry Vibes would.
Sure.
But I got into conversation with them because I did feature them on one of my episodes, and they like to call their style of reggae music Cascade Reggae.
Right.
Which brings me to another question. Have you ever heard of Russian reggae before?
I love Russian reggae music. I'm trying to think. There's a guy. Oh man, I'm trying to think of one of the artists. Something Fjord. I can't remember. But yeah, I like the Russian reggae sound. Absolutely. It's wild.
It's a weird contrast to my ear. Interestingly weird. It's one of the I don't want to say weird like it's a bad thing because it's not.
Well, some of it's electronic-y too. Some of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's just it's hard for me to really relate it to anything else besides reggae music, right? It's just so foreign to my ear, and I'm just not familiar with it. But the reason why I ask a Russian reggae band, and I haven't fact checked really anything on this, but I guess their Blank Generation is the name of the band. It wouldn't surprise me if you've never heard of it, or any of your listeners have. But they sent me something because they saw my Instagram, the White Boy Reggae Listeners Experience Instagram account, and they were like, "Hey, can you feature our band on your podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's kind of what I do here. Where are you guys from?" And I started to venture into it, and it was all in Russian and stuff like that. I'm like, "What is going on here?" So they sent me a sample track because you can't find their music on Spotify, and I'm like, "This is the first time I've ever heard Russian reggae music before," and it was so interesting that I had to throw it in the next episode, and it was
awesome, dude.
It just opened up my mind to just how far across the world reggae music has reached.
Yes.
It's just amazing to me how a small island in the Caribbean that is literally you can't see it on I guess from outer
satellite,
space, right?
Yeah.
It's not even it's just a small island in the Caribbean, but how just there's something to it. There is something to this music. There is something to this this vibe that just can be relatable across the world. And I was not familiar with that notion until I started doing this podcast. So, it's just one of those things. Constantly learning, constantly refining what I know. And it's awesome that Russia and Jamaica. I mean,
right.
they don't
get this. There is a band called Bering Strait out of Russia. They are Russian country music. So there you go, man. If there's reggae over there, there's definitely country. But
these musicians and these artists are just blending things together in ways that I find so interesting these days, and it's interesting to be a part of.
And it's so cool, you mentioned Jamaica being a tiny island, that you can barely see on a a satellite image, but it got, it literally took this music that is impacting the entire world. I believe it was Nelson Mandela when he was a political prisoner. When he got out, he visited 3 places. One of them was Jamaica to thank them for reggae music because it
See?
was the music that got him through, and it was essentially pretty much the music that got him released. You know what I mean? Because of it being, very politically driven. But he visited Jamaica to thank them for reggae music. So it makes an impact. Words make an impact. Music makes an impact. There's one thing you could say that can impact the entire world. You know what I mean? It only takes one song. It only takes, one genre of music, reggae music to influence an entire generation.
Yeah.
And over in Russia, apparently.
Over in Russia, where
Yeah.
they just simply
Yep.
split wood and walk through banks of snow for a living.
That's it. That's it, man. Right on, brother.
Crank some reggae jams, man.
Yep. I love it. Yeah. Obviously, there's some vodka going on in there too, but
Yeah.
yep. So how do you feel when you kind of see the social media version of reggae life? Well, with me, peace signs. You see it in my thing, but ganja, surfboard, sunsets. The Rasta colors. A lot of it doesn't really explain what the meaning behind a lot of that stuff is. It's just kind of there. To me, I get a real good feeling. I love it. It reminds me kind of like your dad gotten on vacation. I'm sure he didn't dive deep into where reggae came from, but it just made him feel good.
Yeah. It's hard for me as a Midwesterner to relate to some of the, I guess, thematics of
Sure.
what some of these American reggae bands are doing, because a lot of them come from the coast.
Sure.
And
Oh,
I
yeah.
simply just travel to the coast to visit vacation. And I'm very selective on which coast I'm going to, because you got to be strategic. You can't just travel the country unless you got a RV and ready to go, because you got the means to do it. But
That's it.
you know, reggae music, you can listen to it anywhere. I
Yep.
think it fits. I can be on a boat in the water in surrounded by pine trees, and I'm listening to reggae music, and it
Oh,
fits.
me too.
Lately it's an interesting thing what people are doing with their image, and they have the right to do kind of whatever they want with it, but like I said, it's kind of hard for me to, if a band is like throwing out surfboards and we're surf culture and everything like that, it's hard for me to relate to them in that sense, because I am not. One band that sticks out to me that seems to be building around that theme is a band called Tunnel Vision.
Okay.
Now, I am not a surfer, and I'm also not a skateboarder. But for some reason, I found a way to like their music so much where they were featured on an episode, and I also had a VIP experience with them, and just loved the time that we had together. But the thing that brings us together is reggae, and that's the only staple that exists between our existence, me and the members of that band.
Yes.
One of them, the drummer, is even so far removed. He's not even from the same continent. He's from Brazil. So it's interesting that there was a moment in time where I had nothing similar to these people that I got in the van with. I hopped in the van with Tunnel Vision. It's one of their songs, and we were able to spend a quality time together simply because of reggae music. No other hobbies brought us together. No other likes. No other sort of anything besides reggae music brought us together, and that speaks to the power of it.
It does.
I don't know if it was just a state of mind I was in, but I wrote something down here that lately, because of the social media content, I've been feeling a little jealous of the life reggae musicians are living, or at least advertise to be living with, because.
Right.
They just seem to be so chill and just loving life all the time. There's nothing that rattles them, and I'm a little jealous because sometimes I get a little rage, a little anger, a little ticked off. I'm like, how can I live like that? But that's the thing about making social media content, is that you got to have it be what people want to see, and they don't want to see the bad times. Dirty Heads actually released a song titled "Radio," I believe it was. Where it kind of spoke to that, like, hey, you don't see me on my bad days, like, I'm a real person too, and I think that one was off Any Port in a Storm album, but that's a good song to listen to because it does have that more reggae beat, and it kind of speaks to that, kind of like, this is the image that we're trying to portray to get the likes, to get the views, but
Yeah.
we have our rough times too.
Yeah, you're the second person on my podcast to actually mention that specific album. The first one was the Reggae Plug. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with him. He has a nice Instagram page. Stefan from New Jersey. He actually mentioned that album too. So there you go, man. It's apparently pretty influential to a lot of people. So that's absolutely incredible, man.
That's
So,
another thing that I came across while doing this podcast is that there are so many companies, groups of people doing so many great things, some of which you've already brought on, Three Little Birds Bandcamp.
oh yeah, they're dear friends of mine. I hang out with them on a personal level.
When I started the White Boy Reggae podcast, I thought I was the only one. that's how kind of naive and how young the idea was. I'm like, I need to do this because I can't seem to find this anywhere. But did not take me very long from doing this podcast that I found out that there are so many groups of people, entities, nonprofits that are kind of using the American reggae scene as kind of their platform for getting their message out. Messages usually consisting of messages of peace and love, and let's help each other out.
Yes.
Rise and Vibes Jam Session, One Love Fan Jams, Grade 8's Baltimore, Muffin But Good Vibes, Sugar Shack Sessions, Surf Roots, Reggae Plug, Reggae Theory. Highly recommended, which I'm wearing. Matt, what's up? Say What with Sandy, connecting people through reggae. Thepure.org, Two Dudes, One Pen, Bradley's House, Daily Reggae 365.
Yep.
There's lots of them. There's lots of them that I was unaware of until I started, really digging into this community here.
Can I tell you about a new one? You see this sticker right here on the front? It's the heart with the Rasta colors, Reggae for a Reason.
Oh, excellent.
That's part of my my nonprofit. My nonprofit is called Sacred Eye. We have two initiatives. One is to benefit holistic autism research, and the other one is an initiative that I came up with. It's my brainchild. It's called Reggae for a Reason. Basically, if a reggae artist is either sick or, hospitalized, missing work, or has to miss tours because of, and this is, full-time reggae musicians, it's their job, there's no unemployment benefits for reggae musicians. So Reggae for a Reason steps in. If you break, an arm, you sprain a leg, something happens and you have to miss your tours or, you miss a month of gigs, Reggae for a Reason steps in. And we're able to help you get through those times where you're not able to, to make any money and support your family. And if anything happens on an awful level, like we happen to lose a member of the community, Reggae for a Reason steps in and gives assistance to the family. So we're having our first kickoff event in October to raise awareness about Reggae for a Reason, but that's what it's for. It's just benefiting, and offering support to the artists where there is really no support. Like I said, there's no unemployment for reggae musicians, so that's what we're here for. That is
super compassionate, and that's awesome. That's an awesome thing to be a part of, Scotty. And,
absolutely.
I guess tell me where to send some money. I'll pitch in.
Beautiful, man. Well, you could definitely be a sponsor for the show, and we're going to be giving some of your White Boy reggae stuff away. We're doing raffles, you know what I mean? It's a free event. I've got 10 reggae bands playing. You go to awakenontheriver.com. That's our first event that we're doing. Or you can go to sacredeye.org. It's I, the letter I, like I and I in reggae music. I and I means God lives within you. It's not you and me. I and I, we are the same. We are divine. God lives within us. So we call it Sacred Eye, and sacredeye.org or Awaken on the River is our first event, and it's not www. It's just awakenontheriver.com, and all the bands that are playing. It's going to be a 2-day reggae festival, all the cool stuff, camping, beautiful, and it's free. So, but yeah, your White Boy reggae swag that you're sending, we're going to be raffling that off, giving it away. So we're promoting everybody that's helping us. It's such a beautiful thing, man.
Flip the dollar on it, man. If all it comes down to is money, you can find it, man.
Yeah, you're right. Yep, 100%. At the end of the day, to be able to support the artists, Reggae for a Reason. That's why we're trying now. This is about building the brand awareness, so we do get the donors and things like that, and we're going to be throwing the shows, and all the proceeds are going to be going to Reggae for a Reason and our other initiative, which is called the Natural Spectrum Project, which is holistic options for autism research, so which affects every single person I know. if you don't have autism, you know somebody who does, or you know somebody who has a child that does. I don't know anybody that autism does not affect personally. So,
Yeah.
yep, we're
Keep on
definitely
doing good in the world, Scotty. You know,
going after
this
that.
this thing that you got going here on the podcast is just one page of the great things that you can do with your time here.
That's beautiful, man.
And
Yes,
it's awesome that I even have the opportunity to be a partner, I guess you could say.
100%.
Even though our partnership is very young in what's to come.
What's to
It's a
come?
great thing
Keywords.
to be a part of.
Keywords. What's to come? There's a
What's to
lot.
come.
Yes, we've
Because
already
there's a
built
lot
this.
you can do. You know, there's a lot you can do, and reggae music is just such a natural way to go about finding people of similar values and similar insights and similar ambitions.
It is. That's it. That's why I love it. And what I end my podcast with, the quote is strengthen unity, build your community. And that's what it's all about, man. 100%. So I got a couple more for you. I'm sure you have at least one more for me. You want to fire your last one at me?
Yeah, I can fire my last one at you.
All right.
I guess what I want your perspective. You are definitely coming from a different generation than I am, different decade, right?
Yes.
You
About
have a
14
lot
years
more.
older, I think.
You have a lot more personal history to this music and the movement that has taken place here in America with it.
Sure.
In general, do you have any insight on the modern day practicing Rastafarian perspective on the American reggae scene? It was mentioned in an earlier episode that sometimes this American reggae scene is losing touch with
Sure.
some of the root stuff. And with that being said, do you still think we haven't gone as American reggae scene? When I say we, I mean everything about it, which is subjective, but do you think the Rastafarian perspective, looking at the American reggae scene today, is positive, negative, neutral, dependent upon whatever may be?
To be quite honest with you, I think what we talked about a little bit earlier, appreciation versus appropriation. I think it's, of course, you're going to have your people that are like, what are they doing over there? This is not theirs, blah, blah, blah. But I think that is what I like to call the vocal minority. A small group of people speaks up, but it's loud and everybody hears it and they think that that's the stance. That is not the case. A lot of bands, like for example, the original Wailers, the original Wailers, Al Anderson, who was a guitar player for Bob Marley, just played at Point Break Festival, the original Wailers. These bands, like Steel Pulse plays giant events. These Jamaican reggae bands, and the general consensus of that scene is they love what's going on over here because it's a continuation of on a big scale. Jamaica's a tiny island. America's a huge country. It's a continuation on a big scale. And you have the people that, claim Rastafari, and in my opinion, I think do a very, very, very good job of upholding Rastafari and giving, respect and love to Selassie and continuing that message in an absolutely beautiful way. And if you're reggae and Rasta is not your thing, but you're still bringing that community building vibe, that revolutionary vibe, I think that's also covered very well. And I do think on a big scale that a lot of people over there, especially the Rastas over there, do appreciate the fact that something that came from a tiny island has crossed cultures. There's no boundaries. It doesn't matter about skin color. It doesn't matter about where you came from. It doesn't matter about how old you are. It's a certain set of principles which love people, understand what greed and corruption is, be a voice for the voiceless, take care of yourself, love nature, take care of other people, build communities, unite together, fight against Babylon, which is pretty much the Western system over here that is built on greed and corruption. They see that. They appreciate that. I know they do. There's a lot of roots reggae artists that do collaborations with white boy reggae bands. A lot of them. So
Yeah.
Groundation is definitely not a white boy reggae band, but I mean, they're a prime example of an American reggae band that has collaborations with your old school Jamaican elders. You know what I mean? These guys are. So I think they love it. I think they appreciate it. They're seeing what they built on a global scale. You know, it's expanded to a global scale, and I think that they absolutely love that. Like I said, you'll have the comments from certain people. I'm not going to mention any specific artists, but it's easy to look up and see. You know, just Google. You know, Jamaican reggae artists that don't like what's going on with reggae in America. And there's a few, but a very few. Opposite Jamaican reggae artists, or you know, the elders that love what's going on in the scene over here. There's a ton of them. So I think it's being very, very, very well received, and I think it's being done correctly. I really do.
That's very reassuring to me because when I take a look at the American reggae scene, it's not something that I see as bad.
No,
but
it's not. It's great.
if the Roots would consider it to be, the majority of the Roots reggae musicians that are still gracing us with their presence today would say that it isn't, well, then I'd be like, oh, well, what are we doing here? You know,
No,
should I be
definitely
doing,
not saying that.
should I even be doing this podcast? You know, because it's not in touch with the foundation of it.
Right.
But I agree with you. I see these Roots reggae bands that are part of the festivals where these American reggae bands
That's true.
are, and they're actually still pretty held high up in the festival lineup too, like probably right underneath the headliner usually. That's right.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, like I said, for example, the original Wailers, you know, he was on my podcast, you know, so they appreciate it because at the end of the day, it's about getting that message, right, of love, but also resistance, of community building around being a voice for the voiceless and a voice for the oppressed. And when they see other people doing that, I think they appreciate it because they're like, wow, our message is being heard and people are actually doing something about it. We are very well received. And I don't think, you know, what's that quote that, you know, imitation is the highest form of flattery? You know, if you're a school teacher, if you teach a student something and then you see them 5 years later and they're living what you taught them, that's a beautiful thing. Unless you taught them something awful and you're like, man, I wish I wouldn't have taught them that. But as a school teacher, that's not what you're going to do.
It is
so
beautiful.
I think that and I know they love and embrace the fact that it's being carried on. I think they might be a little nervous that it might disappear maybe. But that's why I love like bands like Groundation. And I love these bands that are, you can do a collaboration with a current reggae artist, but a lot of bands now are going back to the elders because they're not going to be with us much longer. And getting them on collaborations like Groundation does with, you know, like Apple Gabriel, Mutabaruka, artists like that, where their message is heard in current reggae music now. You know, there's going to be years to have the current reggae artists and the up-and-comers on collaborations, but a lot of the bands are collaborating now back again with the elders because that's what the younger generation needs to hear.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me, and I could just have like a scope, you know, tunnel vision, whatnot, but the reggae music scene seems to rely on collaboration. And I believe that is a founding principle of reggae music, if I'm not mistaken, because of the whole idea of a rhythm. If I'm interpreting that term correctly.
Pretty much, you kind of nailed it on the head. Well, and yes, that's strength and unity. Build your community. How are you going to unite? That's a collaboration. Reggae music's about bringing people together for a common good, for a cause. You know what I mean? For a common cause, bringing people together to fight oppression, to fight the system, to do anything, but it's all about community building, bringing people together. And a rhythm is a track that's played. There's bands that are rhythm bands. For example, there's one in here in Florida, out of Florida. I believe it's the St. Augustine area. But anyway, they're called Rootsea, Rotsea. They are a rhythm band. They write the rhythm, and then they have 8 different people sing on it, you know? So they'll have an 8-track album. It's all the same backing, but it's all different lyrics, all different vocals, all different artists. So yes, a rhythm is at its core based on collaboration. That's correct.
It's amazing because I didn't even know what a rhythm was before I
Right.
started doing this podcast.
Yeah.
I was
Yep.
unfamiliar with the term.
Right.
But as I have continued to learn and grow, I
Uh-huh.
have found out and discovered
Yep.
that to me, now once
Uh-huh.
again, this is my own personal experience. I
Yep.
have discovered that a rhythm is something that is an essential element of reggae music,
Yeah.
and it didn't come to me until that Collie Budd's California Roots rhythm
Oh
got
yeah,
sent
that's
out,
huge.
and I was seeing all of these white boy reggae bands
Yes.
coming through and doing their own rendition, and I'm like, wait, this is the same exact sound coming from this other artist I just listened to yesterday. And then like it
Correct.
happened again and again and again. And I guess the word rhythm kind of naturally found its way into my vocabulary, and I
Yep.
became familiar with it in a very natural way. So it just goes to show that, what's happening in the American reggae scene here does give tribute to the original reggae movement, I guess you could say, or roots.
Yes, absolutely. And check out the Reggaeville rhythm. You're familiar with Reggaeville, obviously. It's the huge. Anyway, they have yeah, just type in Reggaeville rhythm. It's really good stuff. But yeah, you're right, man. That's what it is. It's a band will write a rhythm, and then you get as many people as you can to collab with you, and put some fire vocals over it. And that's the beautiful thing. It's the same, beautiful music that you can kind of skip to every time, but it's the message is different in every single one of them, which is absolutely amazing. Sundub just did one called the Brooklyn Rhythm, and they had some amazing bands on it, man. Absolutely incredible stuff. So, African Incense was the one that Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad did on Brooklyn Rhythm, which is absolutely phenomenal. So, yeah, it's really good stuff, man. So, what's next on your journey, bud? You traveling? You going deeper into Rasta thought? I know you got your Summer of Roots coming. I like that shirt you just put on, by the way. That's cool. What is that?
Yeah, so I just did a quick little wardrobe change
Is that
here.
is that reggae? Is that reggae for a purpose or something?
It says connecting people through
Connecting
reggae.
people through reggae. I'm very
Yeah,
familiar. Yeah.
which is a social media campaign, I guess you could
Yeah.
call it, social movement
Yeah.
that my dear friend, now I can consider him my friend, couldn't
Yeah.
2 years ago, named Chris, ended
Yep.
up coming up with. And he's
Yeah.
been going around to festivals with this big, huge frame
Yeah.
that says
I've seen
connecting
him.
people through reggae in the
Yep.
in the Rastafarian colors. And
Yep.
interestingly enough, I saw him at a Kyle Smith show.
Nice.
And I didn't know what connecting people through reggae was. I just have seen it in pictures and live streams of festivals. And I'm like, hey, and this was a small dive bar that Kyle Smith showed up at in
Right.
the suburbs of Chicago. And I was not expecting to see anything there that I would consider to be social media movement, or whatever the case may be, other content creators, I guess you could say.
Right.
But he caught my eye. I'm like, hey, what is that? And he introduced himself, Chris, this is his thing. And I'm like, that's interesting. This is the first time I've seen this in the Midwest. And he said, well, that's because I just moved to the Midwest recently. I'm like,
Nice.
all right, man, well, we're going to be friends then. Because
That's awesome.
obviously you got a good thing going on here. And I want to be a part of it. And it ended up being that I was looking for +1 to go to Everwild last year, the Everwild
Nice.
Festival presented by Tropidelic in Ohio.
Yep.
And I was looking for somebody to go with, and he ended up going with me, taking that extra ticket. And
That's
it was
great.
kind of interesting because we didn't even know each other. We just met each other at the Kyle Smith show.
Nice.
But we hopped in the car together and made our way on over to Ohio and enjoyed that festival together. So
That's
what's up,
fantastic.
Chris? If you get around to listening to this, connecting people through reggae, find it anywhere you go in the American reggae scene, and follow it on social media too.
Yep, that's very cool, and it's cool. Me and my wife were going to eat at the artist dinner that they had, or the lunch that they had at Point Break Festival, and we were walking by, and Kyle Smith walked by, and I was like, "What's up, man?" And then he got like 10 feet away. I was like, "Damn it, I should have said something," but I was like, "Who the fuck is Kyle Smith?" And he turns around and throws his fist up. He's like, "Yeah," so it's pretty cool. I should have snagged him for a quick interview, but I saw him, and then 10 seconds later, I was like, ah, shit, that was Kyle Smith. I should have acted on that way quicker. I didn't, but man, you can't get them all.
If there's another person that I think has a greater work ethic than you, because your work ethic is just, my gosh, dude, superb,
Thanks, man.
Scotty. You are just loving this thing that you're doing here.
Thank
It
you,
would be
man.
Kyle Smith. That guy
Yeah,
is.
oh, he's a grinder,
He,
man. He's got a lot of tunes out, man. He's always touring, doing something.
yeah, and
Yep.
he does it in what I think is a really really humble way.
Sure.
He is big on not signing. He's big on touring.
Yes.
But he's also big on releasing stuff too. I don't know how he does it. Like you said, sometimes
might
bands have to
record
make
on
that
tour.
decision.
Yep, he might record
Yeah.
on tour. You never know, man. A lot of them write on tour, and when they get home, they record, and then they leave, So Natalie
Yeah.
Rise was saying she brings some stuff, so if she gets like a really nice vocal or hits a point, she'll record it, and then she can bring it home and kind of put it all together, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool. Absolutely, man. So what's next here, Raleigh? We're gonna listen to some tunes.
Well,
We're
there
gonna
was
talk
one
about the
thing.
women of reggae.
Yeah, women of reggae. Reggae music obviously is international, but it seems to be also cross gender as well.
100%.
It's not just for the guys, and it's kind of interesting because you wanted to talk about this, and I'm like, sure, let's do it. And I think the reason why you wanted to talk about this is because in a very early episode,
Yes,
I
I think
had
it was
my
one or two.
perspective segment.
Yeah.
Just females in the reggae scene, and once again, this was 2 years ago before I really started to do a lot of work in this podcast, and it was basically kind of just an attempt to call out, like, hey,
Yeah.
are females existent here or not? And
Right.
as time went on, and as more people reached out and whatnot, and as I continued to explore games or explore bands, it is extremely prevalent that there is a female presence here. And it's interesting because it started out with not knowing, much like the word rhythm, and it's grown into something that I didn't know existed before that exists, and I need to be familiar with it. So, the females that I have come across doing the work that I have done, Logan Rex of Article Sound System,
Yes.
Ellie Mack, Patricia Jetton of Hyrie, Claire Wright, Bianca from Serenation, which you mentioned, Sierra Lane, just recently on an episode, a female vocalist musician called Carice, Ashley LaRue band.
Love Ashley LaRue.
There's also a band called Boostive, where Davina Jasso, I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly, is the lead singer of. Melodots and One Culture have done work with Honora. You mentioned Bikini Trill and Cat Hall.
Yes.
Those are all American reggae. I don't know about American, but definitely making their name in America.
Yes, 100%.
Reggae musicians, and it just half of that list I didn't even know about before I started doing this podcast. So it's kind of interesting as we continue to grow. And then there's one that I want to throw out there too, even though she's not reggae, definitely probably had some influence on all of these females, is Gwen Stefani from No Doubt.
Later probably every single one of them.
Yeah, and she did work with Sublime back Bradley and back in the 90s. So.
Saw Red, that track they did together is absolutely phenomenal. My band actually, we do a really, really slowed down reggae version of that song. So, yes.
Yeah, and it just goes to show that, when you come into this American reggae scene, for those people that are not, I mean, it's for everyone. It truly is for everyone.
Certainly.
In I guess you could argue it on the day, but it's for everyone in one of the most beautiful countries in the world,
Amen. Yeah, and if you actually think about it, Bob Marley, everybody, pretty much every single 99.9% of people that have been on my podcast, their introduction to reggae was Bob Marley, right? And the I3, Judy Moat, Marcia Griffiths, Rita Marley, Bob's wife. Those were, the Three Little Birds, backup singers. So, reggae's, everybody's introduction to reggae included females. You know what I mean? 100%. Yeah. So, but my favorite reggae artist right now, my go-to, well, I have my favorite bands, but I hate to say my favorite female reggae artist, but in my top two, 100% out of the UK, her name is Holly Cook. It is I can't say enough about this music, man. You have got to check out Holly Cook. It's not with a Y, it's Holli Cook. Her dad was the drummer for the Sex Pistols. Her mother was a backup singer for Boy George and Culture Club. This girl is on fire, and it is beautiful root style reggae music with her own twist on it. It's got that UK vibe. Absolutely incredible. But you have, Queen Omega, absolutely killing it. Hemper Sativa is one of me and my wife's absolute favorites. She does some stuff with Tribal Seeds. It's absolutely awesome. Then, like you said, Logan Rex from Article Sound System. But Natalie Rise, she was on my podcast. She is incredible. Extremely militant, extremely conscious music. It's just absolutely phenomenal. And I feel that people maybe listen more. I don't know. I know I do. To female vocalists, I don't. Maybe because they're not as many when they're singing. It's like I don't know. It is what it is. I just feel like I pay attention a little bit more. I really do. Maybe it's the mother. Like I grew up listening to my mom tell me what to do all the time. Yeah. And her telling me when your dad gets home from work, I'm gonna tell him to beat your ass, that kind of thing. But it's just I don't know, and I love the range of the female vocal. I really do.
Yeah, and something that I don't see as much in the American reggae scene that I kind of wish I did is having kind of like 2 or 3 kind of backup vocals as female, which you see a lot in roots reggae music, especially Bob Marley and the Wailers. I can't think of a single band in the American reggae scene right now that kind of has that setup where you have your lead singer and then you have your female harmony singers in the background. You can probably name one, but I can't. That would be awesome to see. Groundation has that, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and they have a song called Original Rhythm where you can hear that in very, very, very clear. It's beautiful.
There should be more of it. There should be more of it.
There should definitely be more of it. Yes, I completely agree. Yes, absolutely, man.
When I think of reggae music, and just like the show of it, I always go back to a Bob Marley stage performance, which is found on YouTube now. Unfortunately, you can't see it anymore, but they always has those 3 backup singers, and there's just something soulful about that and harmonious about that.
Yes.
I'm surprised I haven't came across it more.
And they were dancing, you know what I mean? They were always they were always dancing back and forth, you know what I mean? It was a very beautiful thing, dude. Yes, and they always had they had his back. It was gorgeous, man. He would say something and they would kind of follow up. It was absolutely beautiful thing, man. I'm totally with you 100%. But definitely check out Holly Cook. I've said that a million times on the podcast. I've played her songs on my radio show. Holly Cook, she is something special. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I guess that if you say she's roots, I got to include her in on the Summer Roots Reggae here. That I want
Holly Cook, yes, 100%. So, I know we were supposed to play 2 tracks, but I know you've got you're a full-time dad and all that fun stuff. So, do you want to play? You want to play 1 track and kind of talk about it a little bit, or do you want to play both of them?
1 track first, then we'll talk about it.
All right, cool. Yep. All right, I will. You want me to start with Natalie Rise, or you want me to start with Groundation?
Well, we're already on the topic of female vocals, so let's go ahead and rock the sound by Natalie Rise.
Let's go ahead and do that, man. This happens to be my favorite track by Natalie Rise. It's absolutely phenomenal. It is about as conscious as it gets, and a beautiful thing. It is with some absolutely incredible artists, but this song is This Sound. This is Natalie Rise.
When the time come around, can't stop her lioness when she ready to pounce. Singing for all generations of building a nation, a queen creator, turning people into warriors now. Babylon will burn when they hear this sound. Yeah, the mother cry when they hear it now. Babylon will burn when they hear this sound.
and degrees for me salute the beast, so we kill the beast. You know the steez, no me not ease, a secular seas. My gun overseas, so free up my peeps, and guess who we see? Poor family. What's a surprise? Not till it rise, the Babylon wise and not to try. I'm a king and Babylon, them couldn't govern with it. Girl, it feel like when me use for y'all a COVID-19. Come and I go be no slip to Babylon, them system. So me burn them out in every tune and every rhythm. So me give thanks to the most I call life is a blessing. And speak a love to the old and to the adolescents. And when you stumble, just stay humble in it is a lesson. And not falling at them trapper begging you feel listen. Them while you occupy a grave or a cell in a prison. So when we're speaking of progress, I want you see the vision. Them burn Babylon like a pot fire in the kitchen. Cause Natalie and Joe Mercer are there on their mission.
Babylon burn when they hear this sound. Yeah, them a go cry when they hear it now. Babylon burn when they hear this sound. Yeah, them a go cry when they hear it now. Now it's a real situation.
That was about, three-quarters of the song, this sound, Natalie Rise. Just kind of wanted everybody to get a nice little taste of what we're talking about, man. And what she's saying is Babylon's going to burn when they hear this sound. For people that aren't familiar with Babylon, that is the West, where we live now, which is pretty much, at Rastafari fighting Babylon, built on, greed and corruption. Everybody makes a dollar off the backs and the sweat of other people, and that's kind of what they're fighting. But it's all about me. Where can I get? How can I do this? And it's okay to focus on yourself, but it's it kind of takes a stance of greed and kind of stomping people down to get where you have to go, and that's just not a beautiful thing, And Natalie Rise, we're gonna blaze our own trail, so you better keep out of the way, with a whole lot of vision and a whole lot to say, coming from all four directions. That's the ones we take. So, that's when I say conscious, she's fighting the good fight, man. That's exactly what it's all about, 100%. This song sums up every single thing that I say, what roots reggae, the message, of roots reggae is, she pretty much describes it in this song. It's, fighting corruption, fighting greed, and fighting the system, and coming together as people to do it. So what do you think? You like that track or what?
Yeah, I like that track, and I agree with you with the power behind the message. And also, something that you didn't mention that I want to mention is the power behind the sound, too.
Oh, God,
there's
that's
something
my favorite
about
track I heard.
that beat that makes you want to put one up in the air, or one arm up in the air, swaying your hand back and forth with just thousands of people around you,
That's
just
that
feeling that
dubstep.
flow. Yeah.
I love that.
And, lyrically, the song is very powerful to me.
Yes.
The words chosen to represent the message.
Yeah.
I think one of them that really focused in on kind of inclusion of, hey, we are a thing and you can get on board if you want to. I believe I got it quoted as, in this time of validation, you need no reservation. You just free your mind forward and join the formation.
Amen.
First and foremost, beautiful words,
Oh, yeah.
wonderfully crafted, but kind of just goes to show what she's trying to do with that song. Everyone is welcome, and if you can get along with what we got going on here, then you're invited to the party, which I think is an awesome thing.
I love that, and I do like when she says Babylon's going to burn when they hear this sound. I love that because it is very like we're all marching up a mountain holding the flag of freedom. Whenever we get to the top and they see us, they're like, oh, shit, it's about to happen, and then boom, because, I was raised in a lot of protest groups and doing all that kind of stuff, and one of the things that we used to scream was the people united can never be defeated, and that's true. Now, if we unite for the wrong things, that's a force
that's
for
just
bad.
a sign of the times, right?
That's
just
it.
a particular situation.
Exactly. But, the people united can never be defeated, and that's absolutely true, 100%.
Another lyric, I believe, was need no formal invitation to rise education or something like that. And I always have, my ears always perk up when reggae artists speak about education, because as an educator myself, I know how powerful education can be. And that can be used as then a weapon for good and bad.
That's right.
But I believe my interpretation of the lyric is that, education is different where you are, but you don't need an invitation or any sort of academic prerequisite to get part of this movement that she's obviously trying to get people to follow here.
That's right. And let me take it one step further. I did have her on the podcast. The name of the album that song came off of is Liberate. It's a brand new album, just came out by Natalie Rise. I highly recommend it. A lot of good collaborations. She has some good stuff with Kabaka Pyramid on it as well. But Natalie Rise goes on to say that liberation starts with the mind, because if you think about it, even our thoughts have been stolen. A lot of us don't even think for ourselves anymore. We think what we hear on the news, what the media tells us. So are we really even thinking for ourselves? We have to liberate our minds and liberate our thoughts first before we can actually address the fact that there's some screwed up stuff going on. We have to even be able to have that thought process, and a lot of people don't. They're so blind to it because it's what they've been taught. So, it's about liberating the mind first. Absolutely.
And the best way to do that is in nature. And reggae music seems to draw from nature perspectives and nature aspects. So
it certainly is.
People sometimes just need to spend more time in nature to liberate their mind.
They certainly do. In silence, right? In nature and in silence. Amen.
Now, something that was featured in this song is another lyricist coming on. Definitely has a heavy accent, and this is something that I found so far on Root Reggae that is going to be a little bit of a challenge for me to get the full grasp of it.
Right.
Me being from the Midwest, I did not have a lot of Jamaican accent around me.
Sure.
And I don't really have an ear for it. So this is another thing that I'm excited about in my summer of Roots Reggae that we've talked about before, is just listening to more roots and trying my best to really understand the words, and even having to do re-listens of tracks, being like exactly what is being said here. I love learning and thinking that, and that's what I'm excited about when I'm on the pursuit of this mission I have for Roots Reggae music in the summer, is just to be able to try to approach an accent or dialect that I am not used to hearing and trying to make sense of it.
Yes, absolutely. And, the basic words, they use I hate the jargon, but, the words that they use to describe things. Once you get that down, you kind of understand what, you can kind of follow the rhythm of the song and what they're talking about. For example, she says Babylon, we've gone over what that is. You've, then you have Zion, and just, pretty much everything they, the words that they use to describe, like Ital is the diet and the natural lifestyle. Irie, obviously, everybody knows that. Everything's good, man.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I did an interview with Jeff of Tropic Vibration, and he was able to explain to me what that word meant. So
yeah, I mean that's my dog's name.
Yeah. And it was kind of funny because even after I found out the definition of that word, I went around town asking people specifically if they knew what Irie meant, and there was a lot of people around me that were like, "What?"
Yeah, exactly.
And then I tell them the meaning of it, like, "Oh, that's beautiful." I'm like, "Yeah, where does that word come from? Reggae music. You should maybe listen to it."
That's beautiful, man.
To me, that song sounds like it's reflective of urban areas to me. I don't know if it's the beat. I don't know if it's the edge she has and the singing voice that she has, but it sounds like that's from the streets. It sounds like a very urban area targeted song.
Oh, 100%, because those are the people that are most impacted by, that's where most of the oppression lies, and that's where your concentration of people are going to rise up, is in your urban areas. You got a lot of people in one area that you can influence. Are they going to be influencing correctly, or are they going to listen to this sound and rise up together? It's a beautiful thing, man.
I hope they do, because the sound, and obviously I'm not an urban dweller, but the sound coming from the urban areas that I have spent some time and visited, come across, it's not reggae music in the streets.
Right.
I don't know if that's your particular if that's something in your life, but whenever I do go into urban areas, I don't really hear a lot of reggae music.
No.
I hear more rap and hip hop.
100%.
A lot of Tex-Mex music.
Yes.
Yeah,
A lot
that's
of banda music and salsa
yeah,
and
yeah,
a lot of banda music, a lot of Mexican music.
right.
I love banda music. Absolutely love it. The tuba, boom, 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 boom.
But not reggae music, man.
Right
I wish
now,
the urban areas would embrace it a little bit
yeah,
more.
a lot of them. There's a lot more dance hall
Yeah,
you'll hear in the urban areas, and a lot of the reggaeton. You know, they like that, you know, that dance hall beat that came out of reggae, which is a good thing. But yeah, it's a lot of hip hop though. But you know, a lot of people can relate to it, you know, and there's just it's definitely but reggae has been fused with pretty much everything. So,
mhm.
you know, if you listen close, there's probably a sprinkle of reggae in a lot of it. But
Well, I look
reggae
forward
goes
to
with
becoming
everything.
a fan of Natalie Rise and what she's got going on. Just recently, I did the deep dive into a musician from, I believe, he's from the Midwest. I just don't know if it's Kansas City or St. Louis. It's somewhere in that part of the country, named Josh Heinrichs.
Oh, Josh Heinrich is amazing.
Yeah. So he's a really he's rooted, man. His
Yes,
music is. I'm excited to feature it on the next episode. But
that's
while
awesome.
going through his music available, I came across a song then which Natalie Rise was featured on called "Resist."
Right,
That's a trio collaboration between Josh Heinrichs, Natalie, and Skillinja.
right.
Another artist that he frequently collaborates with. But
Yep.
I really like that song too. So I'm looking forward to. And if it wasn't for listening to your podcast, I might not have stumbled upon Natalie Rise at this point. So thank you so much. I listened to
course,
that
thank
episode,
you,
a great
man.
episode that you had there with her, and she seems like such an awesome person.
She is.
What a wonderful person she seemed to be in the questions and the conversations that you guys got into.
Yes, no, yeah, she's absolutely fantastic. She is solid. She's all about it. I'll tell you that, man. She is serious, so I was a little nervous. I was like, you know, you can't mess up, and you better know what you're talking about, or else she's gonna, you know, kind of crush you. And I was like, thank God I was able to, you know, to keep up with her. So
That's probably the streets coming out in her, man. I
that's
mean,
it, man. Yeah, yeah,
you do got to carry broad shoulders when you come from just impoverished upbringings. And I don't know if Natalie did or what, but it seems a lot of her music, because I did go into her album, is reflective of urban area. So,
yes. Well, yeah, she continued. Yeah, obviously she's from Australia and went over to Jamaica. So she's a world traveler. She's been all over, but she's seen it. She knows what's going on. She's smart. She studies a lot, a lot, and it's very apparent in her music.
well, she
100%.
sounds like somebody I want my daughters to aspire to try to be.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely, man. 100%. I could totally agree with you on that 100%, man. I say everybody should aspire to be. Yeah, she's definitely a heavy, heavy, heavy influence of mine, 100%, man. And speaking of another influence of mine, extremely, extremely heavy, is Harrison Stafford of Groundation. And it's cool that we had picked this song to play, Original Rhythm, because we were talking about rhythms. But in Original Rhythm, he's talking about, you know, the original rhythm, the heartbeat and the human voice. You know, that's the original one. You know, open up the heavens of possibilities and expand our minds into infinite degrees. Some of the lyrics out of this track. So it's absolutely absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna play Original Rhythm featuring Israel Vibration. This is amazing. That's the title track to their album. Well, actually, One Rock was the title track to their album. I believe Original Rhythm was the first song on the album. But it's absolutely incredible. So we'll go ahead and play that track real quick and then talk about it a little bit. How's that sound?
That sounds great.
Beautiful, man. Let's do it.
Ancient form of communication. Through times of sorrow and celebration.
Nice, man. That's a clip of Original Rhythm. Groundation, absolutely fantastic. And I love what he's singing about, you know what I mean? Like the rhythm had to come from somewhere, you know what I mean? The heartbeat, open up our minds. You know, the heartbeat in the human voice, open up the heavens of possibilities, expanding our minds into infinite degrees. So that's the original rhythm, you know? It's came from nature. You know, that's absolutely incredible, man. And everybody in the world has the ability to hear it, you know, for like he says, from Europe to China to Europe to Asia to India to China. And you heard the backup singers, Sorry, I messed that one up. But there's the females that you're talking about. You know, Groundation's a 10-piece band, so they got all the ground covered when it comes to everything from all your instruments to the beautiful female vocals. It's absolutely phenomenal, man. I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah, so this song, when I heard it, definitely Groundation is a rooted influence band, right? Like they definitely try to engulf that and become
every single album they had, all 10 studio albums up until Candle Burning, the one they just put out. Every single song he's put out has when I say militant, that doesn't mean violent, but every single song has like a militant social change message. Every single one on every single album. Yes. So, yes, they're definitely rooted.
when I re-listened to this song, and I probably listened to it about 8 or 9 times, that was something that came to my mind too. Like, this is a question song. This is a get you to think song. You know,
Sure.
This is what is the original rhythm? Because not even the writers of the song really know
Right.
where it came from. And I love that. I love that open-endedness of the song that the song presents. And I like what you said then, your segue of it represents the planet. You know, the heartbeat of the planet is the original rhythm. And I came across something at some point saying that reggae music reflects the heartbeat of the planet and a united people that live on it. So maybe that is the sound of the original rhythm. Maybe just existence in its most purest natural form that Mother Nature has provided us.
That's it. And to me, you know, the original rhythm, love. It all goes back to love. Humans in their purest form without ego are love. A baby is love. You know, a dog is love. You know, it's pure unconditional love until you're taught different. So to me, we're all love and we're taught not how to. So getting that back is not learning how to love. To me, it's unlearning everything we've been taught by Babylon to reveal our true nature, which is love. You know, I think we all have it. It's not like, oh, he doesn't know how to love. He does know how to love. He's just been taught not to. And I think reggae music can kind of peel back those layers, you know, and reveal what we truly are, which is, you know, human beings who love each other. Because everybody down at their core would rather be loved. Nobody wants to be hated. You want to walk around? I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there who's bitter, who's like, yeah, I want to be hated. They don't really feel that way. Everybody wants to be loved, man. We all do, you know? We just all do. That's it, man. You know, straight up, so.
And that's where the lyric formed a tribe when no one was left out. That one really got me thinking about exactly what he meant for me to think when he and the band included that into the song. Formed a tribe when no one was left out. I mean, this is going back to, you know, all the way back to first human beings, you know, hominids even potentially, you know, like even before Homo sapiens, you know, what is an evolutionary trait that has seemingly got us to our existence here? And I would say that love is definitely a strong candidate for how we have been able to advance into what we are now.
Absolutely,
because we do it differently than any other animal on the planet. You know,
certainly,
we love much deeper.
Oh, we certainly do. Yes, and that's our. You know, everybody's got or every species has their own, you know, trait. We have the ability to reason, and I think everybody at their core, you know, would say that love is definitely a pretty good answer to anything. You know what I mean? And that's what I love about reggae music.
Something else about this song that I wanted to make notion of is, even though we cannot see it, we cannot see it on this podcast how we're doing it, but the music video of that's on YouTube is
Yeah.
kind of intriguing to me. It goes through all of the albums
Yeah.
of Groundation, I believe. It like shows it and in a slideshow format in a sense.
Right.
And I think that's really awesome for Groundation to do, because I don't see that much, A, and B,
Right.
it represents a sense of humbleness. You know, hey, if you like this, you know, we got a lot more to come that we've done already, you know?
Yep. And the
Especially
beautiful thing
people like me that are just getting onto it.
and the beautiful thing about Groundation is, if you really, really, really want to go, 10 albums, just came out with the 11th studio album. He's already working on the 12th. So,
Well, it just goes to show the musicianship here and the talent. I don't know all of the musicians of Groundation. You said it's a 10-piece band. It's probably hard
10.
for anyone to name them all off on a whim. But you can tell that the people that are involved in the making of this song are really true artists. They're much deeper than just musicians. They're activists. They're teachers.
Yes.
They are people that want to challenge what we believe to be true, and they want to challenge what people what people think as well.
yes, absolutely. And kind of to mention that, yes, they're 10. It's a 10-piece band. Some of them might fluctuate, but when you're talking about true artists, true musicians, they record analog. You have to get that on the first shot. There's no stop, let's plug this in, let's do that. No, it's analog tape. So they're all playing pretty much at the same time together. You follow me? It's not like they're tracking it out. It's a live band playing at one time. This is one shot and go. That is intense stuff, man. For 10
to remember
people.
all those lyrics. And
Yeah, but
just,
all for
every
10
note.
people to be able to play together at one time, you know, it's like an orchestra, you know, like that's the level of talent that Groundation is putting out.
Yeah. I'm excited. I did listen to that Candle Burning album.
It's
that was
fantastic.
my first full-length Groundation album that I listened to.
That's
and
good.
I mean, I think it's a good segue after a little bit of time here to hit them up first. I already started with Candle Burning, but like I usually do, I'll probably go to then their first album and then make my way up in the timeline of releases.
Yep, it's very good. Or you can work your way back. No matter how you do it, you're going to be extremely impressed. You're going to love it all. It's amazing. Yeah. And you can hear it's good to start at the beginning, though, so you can hear where they, you know, their progression, you know, where they started and where they went. But it's just, yeah, Harrison just blows my mind every single thing he puts out. So it's absolutely phenomenal stuff, man.
Another lyric that came out in that song, expanding our minds into infinite degrees.
Yes, 100%. Yes. And that's the thing, you know, the human mind. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. We only use, what do they say, 10% of our brain. We're not meant to use that much. Once again, it's unlearning what we're taught. When you're taught that you only use 10% of your brain, that's all you're going to use. But there are kids in different cultures where parents have taken their kids to certain learning institutions where, and this is not a lie, man, these kids can play catch with their eyes closed.
Yeah.
Blindfolded. They can read things without seeing it. It's insane what we've been taught. We have been taught limitations. That's not how we're born. We're born with infinite degrees, but we've been only told you can do this. You have to have your eyes open to see what's going on. No, you don't. We've been taught that. Our brains are so fucking powerful, but we're kind of dumbed down because, once again, the people in power want to stay in power, and the best way to stay that way is to ensure that the people don't realize their full potential. And we have it, you know. Groundation knows that. We know it, you know, and it's amazing.
The human brain is mysterious, and that's why I think there's truth to that lyric there. There are infinite degrees to what the human mind can do, and we only know probably a small fraction of that.
That's it.
And we probably don't even understand that small fraction, to be honest with you.
Because we've been taught that we can, I believe, you know. But I think if we didn't know any better, it would just be commonplace to use 100% of our brain, you know.
And he even gets down to like the fabric of humanity there in a scientific tense in the song. He does mention something about DNA. He's really challenging the listener to get down to, you know, the essential elements of human beings and the original rhythm.
Amen, 100%. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Harrison Stafford. He's challenging the listener to, in every single song, you know, take heed, listen, pay attention, see what's going on. Wake up, pretty much,
Yeah.
you know? Yes, 100%. Wake up and listen, you know? See,
Yeah.
use eyes that these two eyes, you have hundreds of others, you know, that I mean, you don't have to only hear with your ears, you can hear with your heart, you know what I mean? There's just a lot of stuff that we can do that we've been taught that we can't. And like I said, it's not learning how to do it, it's unlearning everything we've been taught so we can get back to what we are essentially, which is, you know, pure love and just boundless, infinite degrees, infinite possibilities, 100%, man.
Yeah. Ollie, thank you very much, because I wouldn't have heard of Groundation in the last couple of months, and I wouldn't have heard of Natalie Rise unless it was for your assistance and the work that you're doing here with your podcast with Hippie-Fari. So, Scotty, you keep on doing this, and I'm going to keep on doing mine, and our paths are bound to cross again in the future.
Oh, no, they're definitely going to cross, buddy. Raleigh, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on Hippie-Fari. Everybody check out White Boy Reggae, a listener's experience. It's a podcast. You can find it on every streaming platform worldwide. Very easy to find. He's the only one in the world, just like Hippie-Fari. And speaking of that, there is strength in unity. Build your community. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me on Facebook. Follow me on TikTok. Shoot me an email, hippiefaraireggae@gmail.com, and check out my website, hippiefari.podbean.com. This is Scotty the High-Strung Hippie and Kira the Irie Empress, reminding you to speak your mind before somebody else does it for you. And do something nice for somebody today. Grab flowers for your partner. Smoke out a stranger. Slip that homeless man a buck. But whatever you do, do it from the heart. All good things start with the heart. Peace, love, and those Rasta rhythms are all a part of that reggae revolution. One love, fam.